I am warning you, there is a ton of math in the first part of this video and it gets kind of complex. I had to do that to really get down into the details and explain exactly how much damage the Accel does now. So if you don't like math, run the other way as fast as you can. Okay, here we go. In my opinion, the fact that the Accel no longer does random damage is the best part of this update. This means that we can now accurately predict how much damage the Accel is going to do in different circumstances. So let's go ahead and start with the basic Accel info. This tower does 286 damage per second at max level, which can be boosted by up to 55% using the commander's call to arms ability. This gives us a whopping 443 DPS at max level for the accelerator. Now, since the tower has a placement limit of 8, you can multiply 8 by 443 to see that a group of 8 Accels under the influence of the commander's call to arms do a massive 3,544 damage per second at max level. But that's not the whole story, because the accelerator is not constantly firing. And this is where it really starts to get complicated, which is good because we're getting to the heart of how the Accel actually works now. As you can see from the stats here, at max level, it has a 2-second charge up and a 2-second cooldown. You see, this is something that people typically forget when they talk about how much damage per second the accelerator does. This means that for every full charge, the accelerator has 4 seconds where it isn't firing. Just for clarity, I'm going to call this entire process of the accelerator firing and then not firing as one accelerator cycle. Okay, so now I want to figure out how much damage a group of 8 accelerators all firing at the same time can do per accelerator cycle. But right now, we're missing one crucial piece of information. How long are the Accels going to fire before they switch to that 4-second period of not firing? And this brings us to the newest change the devs introduced with this update, the overcharge. Before this update, the Accel had something kind of like the overcharge, but it was called the burst time, and it lasted for 6 seconds. So before the Accel would fire for a certain amount of time, now it's going to fire for a certain amount of damage. Looking at these stats here, you can see that the Accel has an overcharge of 3,000 at max level. Like I said, that 3,000 damage is going to be the firing time for the Accel, and when it hits that number, it's going to stop firing. And that brings us to the big question here. How long does it take for a max level accelerator to do 3,000 damage? So for this example, let's pretend that we're attacking a really strong enemy that has more than 3,000 health, which allows the accelerators to attack without stopping or getting stunned. As I already said, a max level Accel with the call to arms fire rate boost is going to do 443 damage per second. This means we can divide 3,000 by 443 to see how many seconds it'll take the tower to do 3,000 damage, and that answer is 6.8 seconds. Remember that, it's going to take one single max level accelerator 6.8 seconds to do 3,000 damage. This means our firing time in that accelerator cycle is 6.8 seconds, so we're going to add that to the 4 seconds of non-firing time, giving us a final answer of 10.8 seconds for one max level accelerator to complete one cycle in which it will deal 3,000 damage to whatever enemy it's attacking. So we're going to take that information and apply it to that group of 8 max level accelerators, multiplying 3,000 by 8 to find out that it will take 10.8 seconds for that group to deal 24,000 damage. And so finally, all of that math brings us to the final answer. We are going to divide 24,000 by 10.8 seconds to see that the effective damage per second of that group of 8 max level Accels is 2,222. So the way that works is that 2,222 damage is the damage that those 8 max level accelerators are doing all the time, whether they're attacking or not, because they're actually going to be doing more damage per second when they're attacking, and they're going to be doing 0 damage per second when they're not attacking. This is a special thing about having a consistent DPS that the tower didn't have before. Now with this info, we can find out all kinds of stuff. Like if we're going to use a medic to clear the stuns, it would take a group of 8 max level accelerators about 18 seconds to kill the Gravedigger. Since the Gravedigger has 40,000 health, we would divide that number by 2,222 to get that 18 seconds. And we can also do this with the Void Reaver simply by dividing its 1.2 million health by 2,222 to see that it would take 8 max level Accels 540 seconds to kill one single Void Reaver. That's 9 minutes. Of course, in hardcore mode, there'd be 3 of you, so you would have to divide that 9 by 3 to see that it would only take 3 minutes with a full team. But that doesn't even take into account the fact that the Void Reaver is moving and you'd have to micro towers, and I'm not doing all that math. And go ahead and give yourselves a round of applause because that brings us to the end of Harry's explanation for how the overcharge works and how much damage the accelerator does now. Let me know down in the comments if all this made sense. I know this was a big explanation, but I really wanted to get down into the details and try and explain everything. Go ahead and also let me know if I missed or forgot about something. Alright, now I'm going to use the rest of this video to cover the specific changes between this new Excel and the old one. I have this set up with the new accelerator stats on the left and the old accelerator stats on the right. I do have this bar I have to slide back and forth because it's too much info to all fit together on one page. But I want to bring your attention to the fact that the biggest change initially with the tower is the placement price. It now costs $4,250 to place the accelerator, whereas before it was $3,500. And if you look down the rows here, you can see that every upgrade price is slightly different. Wait, hold on. I didn't turn on dark mode. There we go. Is that better? So the price differences for upgrading don't really concern me. The placement price really matters because that can affect a lot of strats where you've got to get a specific amount of money for the accelerator or else you die. And interestingly enough, this officially makes the accelerator the most expensive tower to place, which makes sense because it's so friggin' powerful and it's a hardcore tower. You got to use gems to get it, and so I think it should be the most expensive tower to place. Now looking at the rest of the stats here, I'm gonna ignore the high damage, low damage ranges and the max DPS and minimum DPS for the old accelerator just because that stuff is kind of wonky. I want to look at the charge up and cooldown of the new one and the old one. You can see that all of those stats stayed the same. Oh, okay, cool. So now I'm looking at the burst time versus the overcharge. So the burst time was only a 6 at the lower levels. It actually went up to a 12. Now I'm kind of curious, like how much damage could the old accelerator do in 12 seconds? So now I want to look at the range. I can see that the range of the new accelerator stays the same at every single level except for the highest level. That surprised me. The first time I used this, I was expecting it to increase the range just a little bit at like levels 1 and level 3, but no, it stays at 17.5 the entire time until it hits 22.5 at level 5. Man, that is like so much better. As you can see over here with the old accelerator, it was only at 13 initially, which is pretty short. And then over here, the new max level range is 22.5, so 2.5 studs longer. Man, this new one is just so much better in every single way. So I would guess that the devs are gonna do some kind of nerf, if only for the reason that this tower is now stronger than the engineer. I would recommend that instead of nerfing the accelerator, they need to find a way to make the engineer a little bit more powerful, because I think it's good for a hardcore tower that costs 2,500 gems to be about this strong. I don't think it breaks the game. They could always decrease the placement limit from 8 to 7 or 6. I mean, there's all kinds of things they could do to nerf this tower without changing the stats. And that pretty much does it for my video covering the differences between the old accelerator and this new OP accelerator. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments what you think about it. Do you think it's too strong? Do you think it's gonna get nerfed? Or do you think it's much more in line with what a hardcore tower should be? And on that note, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and smash that like button with your forehead, hit the subscribe button with your big toe, and turn on notifications however you can so you don't miss any of my amazing upcoming content. And I will see you guys next time. Take care, be safe, and never forget what I always say. Peace!